If you follow Starbucks, you already know this. And if you don't, Starbucks' most popular seasonal drink is the pumpkin spice latte. It gets a lot of attention this time of year. They brought it out a little bit early this year because Starbucks knows. Here's a trivia tidbit for you. They sell 20 million PSLs every year. 20 million. And we'll talk about in a moment how much that costs, how much revenue that brings in, and how you can save and also splurge. So fall treats are upon us, whether you go to Starbucks or anywhere else. We are ramping up to holiday season and tempting us to perhaps go astray in our budgets. So let's look at how you can cut costs this fall, but without giving up your little seasonal joys. I like to share first this concept of going ahead and having a splurge bucket in your budget. This was popularized in the book I Will Teach You to Be Rich many years ago by Ramit Sethi. He has this really interesting way of budgeting that I like because I find that it actually works for a lot of people. And up here on the screen shows what he suggests. It's very flexible, so you can move it according to what you need to do. But overall, what he says is only to allocate about half, 50 to 60% of your monthly take home to the rent, utilities, debt payments, to your obligations, those fixed costs. That in itself could be a little challenge for some people, but stay with me here. Next, he has a bucket called guilt-free spending money. That's things like dining out, like pumpkin spice lattes, movies, clothes, anything else that's sort of a bit of a splurge. And in his budget, you allocate 20 to 30% on your splurge category. Then he does have 10 to 20% towards specific savings goals. These would be short-term or mid-term savings goals, things that you are looking to achieve in under 10 years. And then the 10-year or more, the long-term savings goals, that is in investments, 10 to 20% is what he shows on here. Let me break that down for you. In the box below that, the example, let's say your take-home pay was $5,000 a month after taxes. About half of that, $2,500 to $3,000, would go to those fixed costs, home, utilities, debt payments, etc. Then there's that guilt-free splurge, that spending bucket. And if you're following his suggestion of 20 to 30% there, that's $1,000 to $1,500 a month that you would have in that bucket. Again, may or may not be realistic for you, but this is the thought. Savings goals then, things like vacations, gifts, down payment for a car or house, that amount would be $500 to $1,000. And then the same, $500 to $1,000 to investments for long-term savings goals. It's how that would break down in this example. So let's talk about pumpkin spice lattes. The price this year in 2025 is $6.45 for a grande. That's a medium, right, at Starbucks. So if you had that and you wanted to have one a week, then in 1 month would be about $25.80 that you'd be spending on that splurge. Now, if you're going by this budget, that's okay. You haven't even reached near the top of your splurge bucket, so you could actually do other things. But let's say you wanted 2 a week. That would be more like $51.60 a month. Still doable in the Ramit Sethi kind of bucket. So this is all about thinking of how could I make this work and what sacrifice might I be making in other categories if I decide that I really, really want my PSL. Just an example there for you. It's about spending mindfully. But let's say that you want to challenge yourself and do something else, not spend that $6.45 on every seasonal treat that you have. So here are a couple of other thoughts, alternatives to that. First, what about DIY your PSL? In other words, do it yourself for your seasonal treats. Did you know that the average cost of making your own pumpkin spice latte is less than $2 a cup, depending on what ingredients you use? That's a significant amount of savings. If you did that instead of going to Starbucks, for example, you'd be saving $4.45 per drink that you have. This can add up over time. So maybe you DIY your PSL. You can still enjoy the treat, but at a lower cost. Or you could enjoy the treat more often because you can make roughly 3 pumpkin spice lattes yourself for the same price that you would at Starbucks. Another thought is to use rewards and loyalty programs. Now, everybody loves a deal, of course, and Starbucks is really great at doing this for all of us. So if you do go to Starbucks and indulge that way, don't forget to have that app to rack up some points Or even occasionally they'll have a challenge where you can earn a free drink. They're really good about gamifying the whole purchasing at Starbucks thing. And I know a lot of us, me included, can get sucked into that. But use those rewards, those stars, those whatever incentives that they offer. Keep an eye out, and maybe you can even stretch your dollars even farther. Speaking about stretching dollars, a third thought is to balance out other fall expenses. So let's say the pumpkin spice latte is what you really, really want, but maybe you don't need some of that extra fall decor. For example, I know that Home Goods or some other retailers are really great about bringing out the really cute things this time of year. And the impulse shopping can be really hard to ignore. Think about how you can maybe purchase the one thing that's really important to you and maybe forego the other things. A useful thing to do is, if you're online, for example, that whole like add to cart kind of button, but then you wait maybe a day before you actually go back and make a purchase, because maybe in a day it will have cooled off and you realize you don't need the millionth cute pumpkin on your desk anymore. Here's a way to think about how things can add up over time. This is called the latte factor. Was popularized by David Bach, one of my favorite authors on finance. If you're not familiar with him, go look him up. But the power of small savings. So being mindful of these small regular expenses can very much add up. I'm not saying that you have to forego these, but being mindful of it, that if you do choose to spend less and put it to somewhere else, the power can really add up over time. So this quick example, let's say you decide to cut back $10 a week of extra spending. That's about $40 a month that you have saved. And in 1 year, that would be $480. So if you place that into a savings account bearing interest, you could be looking at about $500 a year that you could put towards some other goal. And that's just from not spending $10 a week. Seems pretty small, but it can add up over time. So being mindful of that, guys. Again, I'm not saying that you don't have to have these small treats, especially this time of year, but the idea is to savor. Don't splurge mindlessly. Enjoy the treat. Don't just make it an unconscious routine that every morning you go to Starbucks and get your pumpkin spice and drink it while you're driving the kids to school and just don't even notice it. If you're going to do a splurge, savor it. Take a moment. Mindfulness means more satisfaction for every dollar that you are spending. This aligns with values-based spending, aligning your spending habits with what makes you feel pleased and proud of yourself. So at this time of year, if it's not buying a pumpkin spice latte and putting that money into a savings account or your investments, do that. Or if it's buying just one pumpkin spice latte a week instead of 2 or 3, and then fitting that into your budget, well, do that. And if it's going ahead and buying 2 or 3 pumpkin spice lattes a week, but opting to cut back on how much you spend in another category, do that. The key is awareness and a plan, not judgment. If you want to enjoy that pumpkin spice with your friends, just make sure you have a plan for it. And if you want to try this yourself, we actually have a tool on our website, the Personal Monthly Budget Sheet. You can download for free, try it out, see where you are spending, where you can enjoy a little indulgence every once in a while without breaking your entire budget. I hope this helps you going into the fall and you can have fun while still staying on track for your financial goals.